You know, she says she's sorry. I'll tell you why I might not fully believe her, but you know, I'm somebody who usually gives people the benefit of the doubt. In this case, we have an influencer who is Chilean, from Chile, visiting Japan. We call it Chile in Japanese. It's Chile, I think. Um, and she acted inappropriate at a temple, not just one, but apparently more than one. So I want to talk about this because to me it still perplexes me. It's actually raining right now here in Tokyo. It still confuses me how anybody can be so disrespectful, not even understand that where she is a place of worship, especially somebody from Chile, where Santiago has some of the most beautiful cathedrals, including right in the central. I've been to Santiago. I can't imagine if a Japanese person started doing exercises inside of a cathedral. You know, how would that go down in Chile? I don't think very well. Maybe I could be wrong. But this creator is an athletic person, can do these amazing things. You would typically do it on a pull-up bar. This is one that really got the most attention. She was doing pull-ups on one of the torii gates. And you know, these are a portal to, it's a very religious place. And it just really hurt me. And in this episode, I want to show you some of the comments from Japanese netizens that on this situation, as well as kind of, give you a little bit more understanding of the things that are really making Japanese upset with this whole thing. I got a list of 10, maybe 20 things that Japanese are kind of, not everybody, when I say Japanese, it's very general, but a lot of people are somewhat disturbed about, in particular Japanese TV talking about this kind of stuff as well. So what exactly did she do? I think I got some videos here, or, you know, this was all on Twitter. I don't know if I want to show it to you. She's here, this is from Jeffrey Hall. She's doing pull-ups to some copyrighted music on there. And it's just kind of, for me, it's really cringy to see this. I'm not sure who exactly her target audience is, but, you know, and she has her head above there and she's doing it like these stairway lifts with her legs and stuff to music. And I guess she wanted this to go viral, but then there's video pictures of her doing stuff like this at the shrine. And that's not exactly the most, like, what are you trying to do here? I don't understand it. Now, Japanese netizens were pretty blunt here, and some of them somewhat more reasonable than I thought they would be. I translated it here so you would get a chance to take a look at it in English. Everyone comes to Japan to TikTok. Not everybody. I'm still not on TikTok that I know of. They want to be funny. They don't care about rules. That's why we have to put a book on manners in Japan on the seats on the planes. Apparently when Appa Hotel put a book on Japanese manners in their rooms, the number of guests with bad manners decreased. Appa Hotel. I know someone's going to be talking about the CEO of that company. Let's not go there, but it's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing if they did a book like this. Look, when I first came into Japan in 1998, I went to the embassy and they had a book on how to fit into Japanese society. I guess it's not politically correct to make these books anymore, but they had picked an animated, like a manga type of thing on how to fit into Japanese society, like about the garbage, about not waving your hands like this, about, you know, chopsticks, taking off your shoes, all this kinds of stuff in here. So I think that it's a good thing. I think that somebody should make a manga and really go into this that helps people understand it, because if you're not coming from Japanese culture, you really don't understand it. So I thought this was a pretty interesting comment. That was pretty good. Let me bring up another one here. If tolerating this kind of unnecessary behavior in a facility owned by God means accepting diversity, then I will never be able to accept diversity. Again, this is the manji. This is the symbol of a temple, not what you might think it is, but you know, it's a 1,000-year-old symbol. I think that's pretty harsh. Again, when people have when they're upset about it, they kind of go maybe a little bit beyond that too much. I don't see any book in my Appa room. Back in the city's actually at Appa Hotel. That's funny. This is a live stream, of course. They used to do something like that. I think it got a little bit controversial. I don't know what happened with that, but maybe they should bring it back. A lot of foreign guests visiting like the Appa hotels for the price and the location and the convenience. When you go to a foreign country, you have to respect that country and go with feeling that you are just visiting. It's embarrassing. Also, you may get punished. like, I don't think Japan will ever punish people in that way. Think about it. They've banned drinking on the streets of Shibuya for Halloween. You know that there's going to be drunk people there anyways. They've banned it, but they haven't because there's no penalty. So for Western minds, I think they don't quite understand this. There's no shame. I just talked about this 48 hours ago in a live stream. There's too many Westerners, and again, this is not everybody, but there's much more than in Japanese culture where people feel no shame. Shame and guilt are some of the most powerful things, powerful emotions for Japan. And I'm going to show you in a couple of seconds why she apologized and why I might not fully believe her as a Japanese. Again, you have to kind of understand the cultural differences here. Cacao here, this is another Japanese netizen. I don't know if it's a souvenir of a trip, but I understand the desire to take a video. It's not that there's any harm if you don't follow the rules, like visiting a shrine, 2 bows, 2 claps, 1 bow. But I would like people to observe basic manners, common sense, such as Japanese culture or valuing beautiful scenery and shrines and temples. The actions are an insult to the Japanese people. It really is. It's an insult to common sense. I mean, like I've been to Santiago. This is the Metropolitan Cathedral in downtown Santiago. I want you to think it's almost the same thing. If a foreign tourist comes here and starts hanging from the rafters, you know, this is like stuff that's hundreds of years old. Imagine up there on the rocks doing pull-ups, or, you know, trying to do denigrating poses, you know, just like to try to get a TikTok video. Maybe Chilean YouTubers are doing that, but I think it's a beautiful place. It's a place of God, and I would never disrespect a cathedral in that kind of manner. In fact, I would probably at the hotel try to dress up and be very respectful, not just for the higher power, but also because I know that there's a lot of locals who have very strong beliefs and see it in a different way than maybe I see it, and you have to consider that. And this is why international tourism, I talked about this, that it's not that there's an over-tourism problem in Tokyo. There's an over-tourism problem of uneducated or people who just don't know things outside of their own country and don't have enough understanding of how the world works outside of their own country or the West. And this is a problem that we have here. Now, in Japan, you know, you apologize, and I'm not going to embarrass this creator too much. I think she already feels embarrassed in this video. I feel embarrassed now with the live stream going like really high. But Jeffrey Hall, who's an amazing Instagrammer, who's somebody who talks about the news and all the political situation much better than I do on his platform. I encourage you to follow him on there. He shared the apology video that she has. My problem with this is that I appreciate it. I'm not Japanese, but I lived here for a very long time, but I appreciate the effort. But she looks like she has a half smile on her face, and at the end she looks like she's smiling. And in Japan, I don't know if this plays well. Like, it doesn't feel real enough. You should be down in the Japanese way. Now I'm being serious here. It doesn't exactly, Joy. It doesn't seem sincere. I'm gonna pull up one of the greatest apologies that's been memed. This is maybe like over 10 years ago, I think now. I remember when this happened. This is the lengths, and the BBC brought this up here. This is the lengths in which you should apologize, or this is a grossly exaggerated. Sorry, I thought the audio was off. This is grossly exaggerated, but the point is, though, that when you do something wrong or embarrassing, even though it might be crocodile tears, or is it alligator tears? Nonomura-san, a very corrupt dude at the time, he went overboard, and to show his appreciation of Japanese culture, he cried so loudly, and it was so embarrassing, and it was so bad. And for him, I don't think he'll ever recover from that publicly. I think probably doesn't care anymore, but it is something no one will ever forget. But he was very sorry, so much so that he ruined his own, well, you get the picture here. So whether or not you think it was real, it wasn't. He took it, he respected, I don't even know. He respected the people that he wronged so much that he totally embarrassed himself and took them to a level lower than sand, all right? Whether or not it was exaggerated, that's an extreme case. But it's to illustrate when you apologize in Japan, if you're gonna make one of these influencer apology videos, you better do it down into the dirt, all right? And that's the only way I think you can win over Japanese, because then they feel your remorse. But in that apology video, I'm sorry, I think it's nothing, and this just shows that she's young, she just doesn't know. And I think it's a little bit unrealistic for Japanese to think that foreign tourists coming here to Japan are going to know everything about Japan and be able to navigate the cultural norms and whatnot. After 26 years, I still can't even do it. So I try my best, and my heart is always there, but I know I make mistakes. That's why I can't really be hard on this influencer despite making a video on this situation. I think it completely highlights the need that visitors coming to Japan need to know more about the culture before you step off that plane. Not just to be respectful, but just because I think it's going to make your trip better. And as a result, you're probably going to not get into these kinds of troubles. If you're an influencer and you're going to be filming and videoing around here, WRX Turbo's in the house, thank you, then I think it pays a lot. It'll pay you from having to do this kind of stuff by understanding just an ounce of Japanese culture. And I think understanding, I don't even need to wear the hat. It's like I got hat heads, so I figured, whatever. So I think it's important that you understand. So I want to take a look. I asked our friend, it's not really our friend, ChatGPT, like to list up 10 things here about Japanese, about what makes the Japanese, like upsets them about the manners of the top 10 complaints that Japanese have about foreign tourists. And I want to go over this list because I think it's pretty interesting. I guess it's hard to shrink this, I gotta make this one bigger and shrink the other one so you guys can see it better. Disrespecting local customs, there you go, that'd be the first one. Probably the most important one, such as bowing, taking off shoes, proper etiquette at shrines and temples. Keep in mind, shrines and temples are not tourist attractions. I think a great deal more could be understood about the shrines and temples before you come here. I think Paolo from Tokyo made a really great video like 6 years ago when we were both much younger about etiquette at Kyoto at temples. I think just taking a look at that is really good, and maybe I'll make one of these as well because we should probably make a new one out of this one. But I think Paolo has a pretty good one about the customs of Japanese temples and shrines. Understanding that is a great part of Japanese. Like, people aren't overly religious here. Well, there's cult stuff going on too, but people are not overly religious in the same way as in other countries, but they still have a soul. They still have a connection with the temples and shrines here, whether you're Buddhist or Shinto. People go there to worship, to pray. They pray for good things for their families. They pray when they lose something in their life, a loved one, or something bad happens, or they want to pass an exam. It's an important cultural place of peace. You have to respect that. Speaking loudly in public spaces, I'm guilty of that from time to time, in particular inside of elevators, trains. Don't use your phone, turn off your phone. You get the picture. Don't listen to music maybe you do this in your country, it's not a thing in Japan. Like, you gotta know this stuff, especially on public transportation. Proper use of public transportation, blocking the doors. Don't take your big arse bags on the buses, okay? Send those along, or take a taxi. If you're coming with big bags, I want you to not think about yourself. If you brought a bag that was that big, then you do not have the right to block traffic. You probably should take a taxi and think about other people, because your big arse bag is going to be blocking people from getting out. And this includes a Shinkansen. Does anybody I understand that you have to bring your bag, but does anybody like sitting next to those tourists that put their oversized bags right in front of their knees and you're sitting up against the window? Like, it's a whole ordeal to go out to the bathroom. It's a whole ordeal to throw away something. Let's say you finish your bento or drink, you want to throw it away. You got to get this person out in the aisle who's going to probably make trouble for other people because she's moving. It is. I'm talking about. It's more girls than guys that do it, from my experience. Foreign visitors, it's always 99% of the time it's a foreign visitor that has their suitcase in front of their knees, and there's no other place to do it. I understand that, but like, send your bag along or something. I don't know, maybe I got to promote this a little bit better. Improper use of public transportation is something that is really, especially on the Shinkansen, it's really starting to upset netizens here in Japan even more. Littering or mishandling garbage. We've seen the convenience stores in front of Shibuya. This has caused a lot of problems. At convenience stores, tourists drinking beer, getting drunk, leaving the trash out there. Trash cans are inside, folks. Inappropriate behavior at onsens or hot springs. We've heard more information about this in recent times. Taking photos in restricted areas. They're taking photos at the onsen in the bats and stuff. There are like signs and things like this that tell you you can't take pictures in the onsen. You can't take pictures inside of certain temples and shrines. Now, granted, in the 1990s, there were Japanese tourists that were, I remember in the Sistine Chapel, I knew they were Japanese because they were speaking Japanese, were just going crazy and taking pictures all of the Sistine Chapel and the roof there, and it was very disrespectful, I thought. So it's not just Japanese people. This is in Japan now, and we know a lot more about it, and nobody really uses a flash anymore. I don't think you could take flash photography inside of the Sistine Chapel, but Japanese flashes were going off back then. I was pretty upset about that when I was at the Sistine Chapel. Oh, it's a cormorant. You never really see them this close here. So yeah, I kind of understand that, but now we're in the era where we can, that's one of those birds that can go underwater, hold its breath for a couple of minutes and get the fish. It's funny that he's right here because they usually don't get too close to people, because I know in Gifu they'll chain them up and choke them so they can get the fish but not swallow it. They're working fish. And there's a lot of jumping fish here. Over here. Oh, he's got him. He got him. Get him. Get the fish. Good job. Failing to respect the cues. Lining up in Japan is an art form. Art form, I don't even know what that means when I say it. It is important that you line up appropriately and not get out of line and not burden anybody by your line, and line up. Or take a ticket with your number and go sit down, and when your number's called, then go up there and get your thing at banks, at post offices, at a lot of places. At a seiriken, which is a ticket with a number. Just there's somebody usually there to help you if you're at a bank or whatnot. Failing to respect the cues is a big deal here. Disrespecting personal space. Japan has a culture of respecting personal boundaries. You can't really help it if you're on a crowded train, right? But most senses here, you keep your distance from people. Don't. You know, I had a Hungarian professor in mathematics at Ohio State, and he would talk to me. He'd be like up to here when he, like, bro, step off, okay? Just, I can smell your lunch, breakfast, and yesterday's dinner. Eating while walking. I don't think that's as much of a big deal as I've seen Japanese that do this, especially at festivals. There's a place and a time to do this, all right? Eating while walking, there's a place and a time to do this kind of stuff. So if you see other people doing it, then that's an indication. But in general, people will stand by the vending machine and drink their drink there and dispose of the can and then go back to work, like a water cooler. But you don't see people walking and drinking too often. But I'm going to be a little bit more lenient on that. It's just something that maybe is a little bit of an annoying thing, but Japanese do that as well. So it's not some Japanese. Poor handling of chopsticks. Understand the cultural significance of chopsticks, because eating food is quite a big deal here. So the chopsticks, you can't put them in the rice and have them sticking up, because that's like how they do it with incense for dead people. And you can't pass food from chopstick to chopsticks, because I've been to Japanese funerals where you pass the deceased's bones after cremation, chopstick to chopstick, and only at that time can you do an object from your chopstick and somebody picks it out of your chopstick and takes it with their chopstick. Don't do that with your piece of chicken at the restaurant. Put the food down on the plate and have the other person pick it up with their chopstick. If you didn't know that rule, you do now. So I can kind of understand that, but maybe not do that. Okay. While these complaints are fairly common, Japanese still remain welcoming to tourists, often attributing such issues to misunderstanding. Exactly. So of course I ask ChatGPT, so what else? There's got to be more. I'm just going to go over it really quickly. Overcrowding at popular tourist spots can't be helped. Not removing shoes indoors, that could be an issue. Disregarding temple and shrine etiquette. This goes along kind of with the stuff before that we're talking about. Blocking traffic for selfies and photos. This is Fuji Kawaguchiko. This is becoming a big deal. I know you want to get your selfie, but don't block people in order to do it. Get off your smartphone. You're not supposed to be walking with your smartphone anyways. Overly casual dress in formal settings. I'm guilty of that too sometimes, but I know the rules, so I know when not to do it as much. Tipping, don't tip. I'm telling you, don't tip. I know you feel like you want to tip, don't tip. Inappropriate behavior with wildlife. We've seen this, just Google this one on Nada's deers. I see more and more foreign tourists like trying to get selfies with the deer. They got antlers. These deers will rip you a new one, all right? They're wild animals. And number two, you shouldn't be touching them. Give them the senbei, get out of there. Don't touch them, don't try to make friends with them. They're wild animals. You know, we see, don't follow what everybody else, these influencers, and I don't consider myself an influencer. I don't even know what the word even means. I hate that word. I'm a storyteller. Anybody who idolizes me, I can't understand it. Influencers. Don't like, it's a marketing term that like marketing agencies use, I guess. But, you know, don't follow what influencers do with the wild animals here. Don't touch them. They're wild in Nara. They're wild in Miyajima. And they'll do nasty things to you like eat your money or headbutt you if they don't like you. And we see that in those videos that you're going to see if you Google this. Disrespecting nature, please don't do that. I've seen people writing on trees. To Japan, the natural world is very important. The temples and the shrines, when you go outside, it's not that it's inside. The temples and shrines are outside. Everything is outside. So it's the outer world, the nature that's so important. Language barriers and frustration. Look, it's such a long list. I can understand the frustration that you might have with Japanese not being able to speak English. Stick to the tourist areas. But this is Japan after all, and they don't have to speak English. In fact, their closest neighbors are Korea and China. So it sort of makes a lot more sense that they would speak Korean and Chinese, considering the fact that more Chinese tourists are coming to Japan than there are Western tourists. And all the Western tourists, not all of them speak English. A lot of tourists from Germany can only speak German, for example. I saw a couple from Holland, couldn't speak that much English, a little bit, but they spoke Dutch fluently and Japanese none at all. How do they get around? But they couldn't speak that much English. So you can't assume that Japanese are going to speak English in all situations. Just stay, if you're uncomfortable with that, stay in touristy areas, in tourist traps. You'll be fine, you know. Familiarity with Japanese toilets. This is an issue. It's funny that ChatGPT brought this one up, because I've been noticing more people like missing the toilet or not doing it right. Let me tell you something. And I saw an American dude. I'm kind of whispering here because it's embarrassing. Back in the day, like 2 years ago, there was this American dude, and there was a toilet paper shortage, and he goes, "I don't need toilet paper. I got a Japanese toilet." And I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Do you think Japanese don't use toilet paper? The thing is just to wash up afterwards. You use the toilet paper. What are you talking about? Like, so this guy thinks that he's got a washlet. He doesn't use toilet paper at all? That's kind of nasty. All right, you don't get the streaks and all that, but you guys don't know that? There's some people who don't know this. Like, just because you got a Japanese toilet doesn't mean you stop using toilet paper. All right? So, like, what? Oh. So, maybe there's this issue going on with the tourists. They don't know how to even do it. It's not just the squatters. They don't know how to do the squatters. There's some people from Asia that don't even know how to use the Western toilets. And there's this movement where there's less squatters. I think maybe they got to build more squatters. And I actually don't mind the squatters. It's the natural position and I am half Indian, so I'm familiar with this sugarcane field farm squatting with people staring at me, but I had to go type of situation. But yeah, it's a little bit unusual, so I'm not sure. Anytime you find a nasty toilet, it's most likely a tourist that had no idea what they were doing and they just gave up. But it's just so beautiful, especially when it rains. You get the birds. There's an aosagi, I guess the egret. He's come here for the fish. The fish are there's a lot of jumping fish here. Oh, there's a cormorant. Are they friends? Do you guys know Toby? This guy's going to go home full. He's eating a lot. Boy, he's getting the fish. Why don't you share with your buddy over there? White bird. It's a white egret. Michael Sasano knows how to use a Japanese toilet, right? Don't get me started with the visitors behaving badly. Go and pick up a refreshing beverage. Well, thank you, Michael. Yeah, Hawaii, I don't have to tell this to Hawaiians at all. I wish I can get down there and pick up some of the trash. That's bothering me. But you can see Japan, this is in central Tokyo, one of my favorite places to go. There's a temple and there's a shrine right here and a temple inside there. Do you see that tree? That's a temple, and it's between a bunch of buildings, and I'm gonna walk through there to end this live stream. If you do come to this neighborhood, I think it's totally worth it to go and see the secret shrine. Maybe I'll think I'd do a 360 video, but I want to get permission from them to get an interview to talk a little bit more about it. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I don't want to, maybe they don't want to invite tourists here because the tourists are behaving so badly. You see all the fish in that? That's why that's why all of the, and the tide's going out. All the birds are coming here. There's a lot of food in there. So, I get it. I kind of feel somewhat bad for this tourist here. You're young, you want to do some TikToking, you want to make an impression. I don't know what you're trying to say here, but just like in Santiago, I don't know if you would do this in your own country. And I just want to put the cathedral here in Santiago's Metropolitan Cathedral, which I thought was one of the most beautiful places. I can't imagine a tourist going to Easter Island and desecrating, or with the, in Rapa Nui, desecrating the moai of Easter Island. I can't imagine that. So think about the same thing of your own country. You have a beautiful country in Santiago, and I think you probably learned your lesson here. And I hope that a lot of you learned something from this too. I know for the vast majority of you guys, I don't need to tell you this stuff. You know this. It's not something that, for people who watches this show, you guys are more informed than just about anybody else here. I think though that there's always going to be people who are going to do this, and it's up to you and me to, nudge them and say, look, this is not about you. This is not even about me. But what you're doing right now is actually it is about you and me, is gonna make us all look really bad to the wonderful hosts. And for me, I live here. I'm not Japanese. I'm still a guest. I have to be doubly, I know a lot of Westerners aren't gonna understand this because I pay a lot in taxes too here. I feel like I have to be doubly careful with being sensitive with certain things, because I'm scrutinized a lot more because I am not Japanese, but I have been here for so long, people notice when I do something wrong. And I think this is actually the same now for all the other YouTubers that have been here for a long time. They're now something of a known quantity. I have a lot of Japanese wonderful people who say hi to me. They're not foreigners, they live here. They're watching the show. They see me on TV. They see me on the news. They see this series as well. They get recommended this on Instagram Reels. My Reels have been doing pretty good too. So I have a responsibility to make this kind of video because I want Japanese to understand that we as a community of Only in Japan here, we really understand the sensitivities. That's not the right word. We understand that our actions have consequences, and this one person who came here to TikTok, those actions have consequences, and it kind of hurts me to see it, But I'm also an understanding person, and I'm a forgiving person. But maybe you need to get into the dirt a little bit more with your apologies. I'm just saying. Joshua's here. He says, "Hey Jen, I've been watching your content since middle school. Holy smokes! And now I'm graduating college. What? I'm planning a 46-day trip to Japan. Maybe I'll see you here, Joshua. Try to come find me on the Go live stream, and I got a couple of cards for you. I might have to order some more, but yeah, it'd be nice to meet you. I appreciate that, and we've kind of grown up. Well, you've grown up. I've grown older. We've kind of grown together over these last few years, last several years. So I appreciate that very much. Well, thank you. Thank you. I actually, Joshua, you know, I had a student reach out to me. I don't know why. I think maybe his mother had passed away, but he found an old picture of me and him. He was 2 years old. That was 26 years ago, and now he's 28. And he found me on Instagram because one of my reels was recommended to him. And we've been sending messages back and forth. He had the picture that his mom took on his mom's camera. So I sent him the picture that I took with my camera. And we put the things together, and it was pretty cool. They're two different perspectives, two different cameras, just different poses for the same picture. So I'm hoping to make an episode on meeting my students that were 2, 3, 5 years old, and now are 28, 35. I got some students that are probably, yeah, mid-30s now. Holy mackerel. No, I got some students that might be near 40. I had some students that were 15 years old 25 years ago when I first came here, junior high school students. 15 years old 25 years ago would put them at 40 years old. Holy macaroni. Holy macaroni. So I got students that are now 40. What became of their lives? Did my influence of fun English lessons actually improve their lives, or can they speak no English at all? So I want to try to track them down. So if you are one of my students from Okazaki, from Hiroshima's Yokogawa, from Iwaki City in Fukushima, Numazu, Fujinomiya, Fujigaoka in Nagoya, Toyohashi. I taught in about 16 different schools for Amity Ion, which is a children's school. I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message on Instagram, and let's do this. Let's meet up and see how life has changed your life. That's pretty cool. I'm watching the fish here. I think that's more interesting than looking at me. Anyways, I wish you guys all the best, and just keep in mind that what you do is scrutinized here in Japan, and if you do something bad, then I'm going to talk about it. But in an understanding way. Again, I know that she's younger, and she has to be probably feeling even worse. That apologies fell a little short, but I do think that we have to remember that these temples and shrines are very important places to the neighborhood. They're places of nature. Again, the cathedrals are all inside mostly, but we look at the tree growing out of this shrine. The Japanese world is so connected with nature. You have to understand that. If you are on the property, you're in the temple. You're on the property, you're at the shrine, okay? And now I want to wait for these people to be polite, and we're going to walk through this alley. They're probably tourists. A lot of Japanese tourists come here to see this, but the temple, I think it's a temple, is inside of the alley here. So let's wait for them to come out, and then we're gonna go in there. How you guys doing? We're waiting together. I guess while I'm doing that, I can promote the Postcard Club. This month's postcard is this beautiful scene from Kochi Prefecture, Tosa Shimizu. It's the end of the world. This is the very end of the Shikoku Island. It'd take you forever to get to this point, but this shrine might be the most beautiful place in Japan, overlooking the Pacific. The wives of fishermen used to come here to pray for their husbands to come back safely. Some unique traditions at this place, but this is this month's postcard, and that is me with the drone shot looking over the shrine, and we did discuss this, and I was able to get permission and access to film there, which was great. Try to do things the right way. All right, let's go inside. I don't know how the signal's going to be, but we're just going to walk by here and be really respectful. And a lot of people are taking pictures here, so it's not a big deal, but just be very quiet, very respectful. You can see the tree growing out there. This is so amazing. See the tree? Tree is growing out of there. It's amazing. That's how connected Japanese are with nature. That's beautiful. That's again, it's in this alley. I'll do another video on this. I think I'll call them up and see if maybe they'll talk with me. I don't know if they want tourists to come here and visit. I think it could be something that's not a great thing if tourists are coming here to take pictures of this place. And you have to be polite. Don't touch the tree. You know, things like that. It's not, you know, but the way it's connected with nature, I just have so much respect for Japan. Look how clean it is, how well protected and preserved the tree is. It's a happy tree growing inside of there, right? It's just so fascinating. So I don't want somebody coming here and doing TikToks and trying to get views off of this. And here I am, you know, showing it to you on a live stream. But the point is, when you go to a temple or a shrine, you have to be respectful. You can take pictures on the outside, but I didn't walk inside there and start taking pictures because that would be wrong. You can do it from the outside. People do it all the time. It's something of a local tourist attraction, but it's all about being just respectful. And I think you can feel it in your heart. You know if you're doing the right thing because you're trying to do the right thing. You're thinking about doing the right thing, and you've gone online and you've maybe looked at Paolo's videos, or you guys have gone into ChatGPT or something, whatever. Just search in here, what's the appropriate way to show respect at a Japanese temple or shrine, and little things like this. It makes a difference, and it doesn't take that long to do it. But it also enlightens you on Japanese culture and makes your trip even more fun, more interesting, because you learn something from it. You're supposed to come here and learn something, not just eat food. Although I can understand why you would do that, but you're learning about the food as well. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm glad that we took some time to talk about this kind of issue. If something else bad pops up, I'll do another live stream. I'm expecting to go to Kawaguchiko to finish up a story on over-tourism over there. They took away the black tarp, so I might be there, drive up there sometime next week. Show you some places out there. I'm going to be going to Kawaguchi, which is this beautiful town with an Edo era history, and show you some of the history over there as well. I might make an edited video on this. So I'm going to be traveling to Saitama, which is not deep Japan, but it's deep history. I'm looking forward to that as well. So I've got some big trips planned coming up in October, and a big one in November as I take you to Western Tokyo and film an episode in the Tama region of Japan. I'm looking forward to that. My family and I are going to one of the most beautiful Japanese ryokan. It's a beautiful place. I think it's a temple, maybe a shukubo, but there's a village in the Tama region where you're in the nature of the autumn, and I wanted to show you Japanese autumn. This would be the best way to do it. In Tokyo. So I'm looking forward to that episode as well. And I've got a bunch of stuff coming on the main channel. So I'll see you guys in the next episode real soon. Mata ne.